welcome back to Case Closed, Anime Review, episode number 44. Now, the original plan for this particular one was, now I'm reviewing the OVAs, the remaining ones. My original plan was just to review now there was 8 left. Now, I was planning to do this one, just do 4, and the next do 4. I was planning to do this yesterday, but I ran out of time. So I'm reviewing pretty much all 8 remaining OVAs. Almost kind of like reviewing an actual season of the series. Alright, first up is the second OVA. Now this one I'm covering, these are the OVAs I'm covering this particular one. 2, 3, 5, 8 through 12. Yep, all the remaining ones. First up is 16 Suspects. Now I should point out though, starting with this one up until the 12th one, they were released every year. The only year they didn't release one is these released from 2000 to 2012. They did have 1 year where they did not release an OVA, and that was 2001. Unknown why they skipped a year for, but they did. Yeah, these OVAs released the following years, basically 2002, 2003, 2005, and 2008 to 2012. So was that. 16 Suspects. Basically, Inspector Santos invites over pretty much most of the cast of the series at this point in time. And these people he invites. He invites Inspector McGuire, Takagi, Saito, who at this point thinks his childhood sweetheart, even though it really isn't. The Geo Detective League, all 5 members. Richard Moore and his smoking hot wife. Rachel, Serena, Harley, Kachin. I'm trying to think, who else did he invite? Oh yeah, Professor Gasa. I think that's it. Yeah, 16 people basically. Oh, and the reason why he invited them there? Open with Navilla. First one he ever did. And apparently Serena does not have, because she's from a rich family, she does not have a villa in the area where this takes place. This area anyways. And they get sort of a tour of the place. They show off the wine cellar. Very nice looking wine cellar. He also has his big oak wine rack that has like his most expensive wines. And shows off several of them. Now, before he takes them out, he puts gloves on. Now, I don't know if this is standard practice, basically, for wine owners. Whenever they take out very expensive wines. One of them was worth, like, several million yen. I'm not really sure exactly how much that is in U.S. currency, but, yeah, it's probably... These wines look very expensive. And the reason why he's able to afford all this is because he comes from... Because Santos is rich. Yep, that's pretty much the reason for this. And... Of course, I would have now I will explain my thoughts on basically a little bit basically of who else should have been here too. They should probably do this in the future. Shows up the place. Now McGuire is wearing a different outfit than usual. Because normally you see him wears like a suit, tie, and his regular detective hat. This one is wearing a ski cap. Because he loves wearing hats. And the reason is so he can hide his scar, which he's embarrassed about. Yep. So, and of course Richard Moore gets drunk like usual. And of course then, well, everybody's like drinking with the exception of the kids because I'm glad at least the OVA members, don't get the kids drunk because they're underage. Though I think possibly Rachel and Serena could possibly get away with it. That's if the drinking age over there is 18. I'm not sure what drinking age over in Japan, but in the United States it's 21. Yep. So, and then basically Rachel decides to go out, basically look around the neighborhood. So, Conan, Harley, and Kachin go with him, and they can explore the place. Of course, Jimmy has sort of, Conan has, Jimmy, he remembers stuff, basically, remember the look around the neighborhood because, apparently the Kudos have got a villa in the area, so Rachel's been here before. And apparently Harley is not into. He's basically bummed out. And he's like this on most of the OVA. It's not revealed exactly why he's like this until like the very end of the thing. And then when they get back, well, of course, Harley and Kachin basically are just, already back because he wanted to go back anyways. And by the time they get back, they're back no more than less than 5 minutes. And Santos runs in and says, "Oh, like something really terrible has happened. Come on down and see it." And what has happened? One of his expensive wines has been destroyed. Yeah, and trying to figure out who the heck is behind it. And after some investigating, it's revealed that Richard Moore was behind it, despite the fact he basically was revealed is that apparently one of the Japanese mice found their way into the opening hole that was in there. And apparently Harley just wanted to reveal who the person was. So he had Conan basically take care of it. He almost revealed he's really Jimmy Kudo. And so, yeah, it reveals the whole mouse thing. And the fact that the wine that was destroyed was actually a cheap one, not the actual expensive wine. And it turns out that it was actually swiped by Serena. And Rich Moore got the blame for basically just actually destroying the wine. But here's the thing. The actual person who did this was Harley, by pure accident. He was simply just trying to push things back, and guess what? Pushed it all the way. And, well, yeah, that's basically it. It's a very good story. Now, I kind of wish, because I know later on in the series, they reveal that the Junior Detective Lee's teacher is his childhood sweetheart. I kind of wish they would do this basically in some point in the series where Santos takes the teacher, possibly Junior Detective Lee again, to his villa. I would personally love to see that. Yeah, that would be quite nice of him to do. After all, of course, they did show when he had the whole Valentine's Day, like White Day thing, we buys her a bunch of chocolates. Because he's rich. He can afford it. Yeah. Fun OVA this is. And of course, then we have this one. Conan, Heiji, and the Vanished Boy. Yep, you have Conan and Rachel. This is the first one without Richard Moore, surprisingly. Yeah, first one without him. But second one are featuring Harley. Harley's in several of these. And this one, basically, they're in Harley's hometown. And they're just doing some sightseeing. And they run into three kids who are the spitting image of Amy, George, and Mitch. Except that the one who's basically looks like Amy is more bossy than Amy normally is. Amy is naive, not bossy. And when Conan runs in, he accidentally calls by the other kids' names. And they're like, who are they? And Conan's like, whoops. Because he got so used to basically calling because he got used to these kids. Yeah. In case you're wondering, do these kids ever appear outside this OVA? Nope. The whole point of this one is that a kid has disappeared. A kid who looks kind of like Conan, but with different hair. So, they go and find him, and it turns out he was kidnapped by a couple jewel thieves, which, of course, Inspector open up, an old friend of Harley's, who I think is supposed to be his godfather. Yeah, I'm thinking it's probably his godfather because he's very close with him. He keeps calling him Hit-chun, though he calls him Obada-han. I'm not sure exactly what the Han means. I have no idea. Because I've tried looking up exactly what the heck this means. I can't find definition for it at all. Yeah, and then they find the jewel thieves, thanks to, of course, the white sedan. And it turns out they're actually holed up in the kid's former apartment. Yeah, a place that was his former home. And the reason why he kept coming there because his parents were so busy to play with him. Yeah. Interesting. This is an interesting little OVA. And, well, it's a good standalone one. I kind of wish they bring back the kids to play this one because they were quite interesting. They could kind of be this particular city's version of the Detective Boys. I mean, Harley could basically be their mentor. I don't see why not. After all, they got cut up by a kid case, so why the heck not? Next one is the fifth one. The target is Kogoro Mori, the Detective Boys' secret investigation. This one also surprisingly involves a kidnapping. Yeah, second one in a row. This one basically felt like very last minute. Yeah, kind of like another one basically, which also involves a kidnapping. This one, okay. Yeah, they basically they have a school project of interviewing various basically businesses, and of course they also bring up the fact that this also bring up in here and in the second OVA that Genta's parents own a liquor store, and of course he invites Santos basically to come by the shop anytime he wants to, because he owns all this fancy wine, so why not buy some more from his parents' store? I'm sure his parents don't mind the fact that he's doing this because there's nothing wrong with a kid advertising his parents' store. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. There's nothing illegal about that at all. Yeah, kid advertising that his parents sell liquor, or at least basically sell alcohol. There's nothing honestly wrong with that, as long as they keep Richard Moore away from it. So they go to interview Richard Moore. And after for a little while, and at one point he gets personal, because they ask about his estranged wife, he just abruptly goes on his case. And they say to follow him, though Conan and Anita follow him grudgingly. And they follow him, and he's actually following up on a case that he's doing, following this kid this 24-year-old, actually he's 26. He was basically his girlfriend's parents were asked to do a background check on his lifestyle, and he seems like a pretty simple guy, who's also in debt, by the way. And of course, well, at one point he gets kidnapped. Yep, he gets kidnapped. I kind of felt this with the kidnapping thing was not exactly as tacked on as one with what happened in the 7th OVA. This one does not feel tacked on. It felt as though basically it wasn't like last minute. And at least there was a reasoning for it. They don't explain who the kidnappers are, but at least they have a good reason for it. Yeah, in the case of the other one, there was no reason for the kidnapping because they never bothered to explain it. And of course, at first they followed the guy's girlfriend, who takes out money, and of course, Richard Moore decides to rent a van. Why not? And so they follow him pretty carefully, too. Lucky enough, since, even though he's sort of an incompetent detective, he's a very good driver. Yeah, he's very good at driving. And they have followed him for a little while. At one point, basically, kept looking back. And, of course, eventually they find, and lucky enough, a gossip managed to follow him, just by sheer, well, it's not by pure coincidence that he said follow him. Conan called him up, basically, asked to help along. Like, sure. And, of course, well, then they confront the 3 kidnappers. And of course, the leader is confronted by Richard Moore. So, like, of course, he recognizes because Richard Moore is a celebrity. He's like, oh look, it's a sleeping Moore. Well, sleeping Mori, sleeping Kogoro. And of course, he does a judo flip on him. Conan does his soccer ball right to the other guy's face, and the third guy runs to the building with the money. And he's about to get away with his motorcycle, but luckily enough that the junior detective fleet decided to chain up his motorcycle and cause him to get hurt. Well, not seriously, of course. Just basically some bumps and bruises. And, of course, they're all arrested. And, of course, everybody's, satisfied. Yeah, this was actually a really good OVA. 8th one. High school girl detective Sonoko Sushi's case files. Yeah, this one's involved basically Serena writing a play where she's the star of it and tries to solve a murder. And, well, luckily for her deduction, They got the murderer right, but they couldn't exactly figure out the motive for behind that dying message. Luckily enough, Jimmy Kudo, well, managed to basically call up and say, hey, use the explanation. And then the day of the play, Serena got a cold, so Rachel decided to fill in for the detective. Yeah, and of course, well, the explanation, of course, according to a quick action scene, take out the murderer pretty easily. Now, the explanations of what the heck the murderer was is like, oh, he's a dog. Nope, then he's an alien. And then he turns to E.T. Well, a very gray E.T. It becomes a hilarity. Basically becomes a parody of E.T., the film. It's like, wow. It's like, good thing this wasn't released overseas because I'm sure Steven Spielberg either would probably laugh at the homage to E.T. or he probably would sue them for copyright infringement. Yeah, this is a fun little OVA and I do like it. 9th one I was not looking to very much. Stranger in 10 Years because I knew about the conclusion of this damn thing. Okay, so Conan gets a cold and of course, well, he's staying home from school so he has to go over to he goes over to Augusta's house because, well, Anita's got, well, a possible antidote for him to turn back to Rikudo. He takes it, and then all of a sudden, 10 years pass by. Yeah, apparently it's real that he apparently took it multiple times over the years, and it stopped working. He built immunity to it, so he aged pretty much what he normally is. And everybody's got 10 years older. The only one that looks exactly the same is Richard Moore, which that's not surprising because that is actually quite normal for that to happen. Where someone in their 30s still kind of looks the same even though they're in their 40s. This is nothing unusual. Some of the characters do look a little bit older. Richard Moore is surprisingly the only one who does not look older at all. He looks exactly the same because it's not surprising because this is natural for something like this to happen. Okay. I kind of need to lock the door. Anyways, yeah. Let's see what else. Yeah, and then he meets with everybody, and Serena's still an heiress, and Rachel was about to get proposed by the doctor because they teased him earlier that he should that Serena told Rachel to dump Jimmy because he's not around. Yeah, but I have to hold off on the other stuff because dinner's ready. So I'll see you on part 2 of this one. Okay, but these are the next few. Bye.